Good morning. My name is Rachel McCormick. This is my brother, Spencer McLeod, and we are here from McLeod Farms today. Chalmers is right. We are a century plus a couple of years old farm, founded in 1916, located in McBee, South Carolina. Of course, our dad and our mom are here as well from McLeod Farms, so it's definitely still a family operation. And you know, something that we're really proud of and that we're excited to share with you today. A little bit about our history. I've got this timeline here. If you want to dig in a little bit deeper, you can visit our website because, again, we are kind of proud that it's still family owned and operated, but it started in 1916 when we harvested our first peach crop with Hector McLeod. McBee is still a very small town located near the Hartsville-Darlington area. If you know where that is, it was a railroad town, and so they harvested that first peach crop back in 1916. Then Carrie McLeod, the second generation of McLeods, diversified the farm, started growing rye and a few other row crops. And we've definitely, as we present today, you'll see kind of how we continue to diversify over the years. Then, of course, our grandfather, Campbell McLeod, was the third generation. He took over when his father passed, and he actually discovered a mutation in the Loring orchards, and that is where our new peach, the Carrie Mack, came from. So that was our grandfather. Kent McLeod, who's here today, our dad, fourth generation. He graduated from Clemson and joined his father in the 70s to continue farming peaches. They increased the production about 4 times when he came on. So, you know, it's a kind of a quick expansion then. Campbell retired, but he continued to collect vintage farm equipment. So if you've been by our roadside market, you can see that. I've got a slide with some pictures of that as well. And then also Dad has extended that or enlarged the roadside market. In 1996, the peach packing house was rebuilt. And with the rise of UPS, we also started mailing our peaches as well. Now we've got Dad and Spencer together as they emphasize, you know, precision ag techniques. We've also gotten into the berry business and just incorporating all the things that, you know, are coming up here and now. We've got other family members involved as well. James Bird, myself, Doug McCormick is my husband, so we're all in it together. We've got listed here some of our commodities. And I think Spencer's going to continue with that.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to take a picture of what we do because we do a lot of different things. And if you ever come to our farm, you know, we're always in something different. So I think that one of our hallmarks for why we've been around so long and why we've been successful is because we are diverse in what we do. And so we were sitting here trying to figure out what exactly do we do. We can't remember some of the things because we do so much. But we are a grower, packer, shipper. You know, we're known for peaches primarily, and so we grow, pack, and ship our peaches all across the East Coast. We also grow strawberries and a few blackberries. But outside of that, we're into retail. So we have a roadside market that we started in the early 2000s when we really have a neat place where Charlotte traffic going to the beach can stop by our place. The highway was widened in the late 90s, and so my dad was wanting to build a bigger market, and he can tell you a great story about his conversations with his dad about what that would entail and putting the big bathrooms in and how that was such a big investment and it wasn't they weren't sure if it was going to be a profitable thing, but now you can see on this slide, this is where we are now on Highway 151, and it certainly was. And so we get a lot of folks that come from Charlotte and come through our area and stop by our farm on the way to the beach. So in retail, though, we also do a mail order business. So we take our peaches and we ship them directly UPS to people's houses, and we go all the way to the West Coast doing that business. And then because of the roadside market, we then got into agritourism. And so we have a corn maze, we do pumpkin patch in the fall, and field trips. And so that's been another piece. Outside of that, we also farm row crops. And so in the 50s and the 60s, we got into seed business. And of course, we've been farming soybeans and corn. But in the past 4 years, we've gotten into cotton and peanuts. And those two commodities that we've added have certainly made our farm a little bit more diverse and has been a great addition to our crop mix. Let me see. So talking about peaches, we start our season with peaches. We don't end our season with peaches, but we start this month, and next month we'll be pruning, and we'll take that to thinning in April and May. And then our first peaches start at the end of May, and then we take that through the 1st of September. One thing that we did in the past 3 years is we upgraded our packing house. This is Doug, and this is our new sorter system. This machine actually grades our peaches. In the past, we had a sizer that would only do size, and what this did was allow our packing house. We eliminated about 24 people on our grading line. We also built some tables here to do a little bit more specialty. So in our peach business, we've seen a lot more need for bags, for specialty packs, trays. And during this process, we also added more capacity to do those specialty packs. We'll have to talk about this past peach crop. If you know anything about what 2023 was for the Southeast, it was a pretty devastating year for most peach farms. And we were blessed that we actually were spared from a lot of the damage. One, we have great elevation. We're around 450 to 500 foot. Number two, we have wind machines. This year we ran 52 wind machines, and I have to give for 6 nights to avoid all this. And I have to give a lot of credit to my dad, who back in the 80s and 90s went out to the West Coast and saw what they were doing with cherries and stone fruit, and decided, this is something we need to get into. And brought back some wind machines and bought our first wind machines, of some Chevy 454s running on propane that we still run today. And that's the funnest one to run. And it still sounds as good as it does. So we've been continually adding wind machines, and that was really a great thing for us this year. And so because of that, we ended up purchasing a few more this year, because they certainly put us at the top of the peach hill this year. Let me turn that. So, again, talking about this past year, there was a lot of talk about the damage of the peaches and how they were falling off the tree. So what that put us in a position at the end of May is we kind of didn't thin our peaches in time. And so we had a rush. Once these peaches hung on the tree, we needed to thin them. So we had a shaker come in and shook some of these trees. And you can see, that's how many peaches we were taking off the tree. Truly a blessing that we were able to have this crop. And you can see on this slide, this is our packing house. That's where that sorter that we put in 3 years ago. So those would normally be our graders on that table, and that this year we didn't have any folks on there.
Which allowed us to kind of move them to the other sides to
right.
The hand packing.
So we moved all those folks to actually do some more hand packing to increase our capacity and to actually speed up our packing house. So in addition to peaches, we started growing strawberries in the early 2000s when we had the roadside market for retail, and then we kind of expanded, trying new varieties and figuring out how to grow strawberries. Strawberries is a tough crop, and it's always a challenge. and now we're up to about 60 acres, 70 acres, and we're selling our strawberries in local chains and local markets. But one thing that we have started is our winter crop, or our fall crop, and so we're planting some San Andreas variety strawberries early. This was actually 2 weeks ago, and we're just covering them up. There's no tunnel houses. We tried tunnel houses. It was an interesting venture, but we found that we could just do the same thing outside and just keep covering. So our fall crop has been in the past 6 years has been an addition to our crop mix for the winter, and also during that time it's a little bit slower on retail side. You know, we've got a new and interesting product that people can come in and buy fresh strawberries. So talking about our row crop side of things, we like I said, we added corn and cotton. I mean, we added cotton and peanuts. We've been adding irrigation in our row crop, and we've also been laying more drain tile. Here's a TikTok we. But we all went to. But one of the things that we recently went to was the executive farm program, and during that meeting, one of the things that we wanted to do was increase our value per acre, and cotton and peanuts kind of took that row crop side of things into a more revenue per acre, and it really changed our row crop from being soybeans and 25 bushels in a sandy land, you know, to $1,000 an acre on peanuts or cotton, and so that really changed our land around McBee, and so those were good additions to our row crop mix. But I'm going to turn it back over to my sister for Roadside.
So, just speaking a little bit on our roadside market, I think Spencer talked about, you know, what started as just a cinder block building on Highway 151 is now our large roadside market. It was a vision of our dad. He does tell that great story about if you build a clean bathroom, they'll come, right? So it was a big investment that we made in our market, and he just took it from there. We also now have a bakery inside there where we make fresh breads. We obviously are known for our peach enchiladas as well. If you've been by there, it's kind of our signature that people come for. And then, of course, ice cream, too. So we do serve ice cream, about 30 different flavors. And then we also make homemade waffle cones as well. I will say, when we wanted to start in the waffle cone business, I was like, let's please not add to the to-do list every day, you know. But we have found that people love them. You know, they'll spend the little extra money on that waffle cone. So that has also been a really good addition over the last couple of years. We grow a lot of different things as well, just to sell there locally at the store. Spencer talked about adding those winter berries to the mix. People love to bake with them during the holidays. We dip them during Valentine's Day and Christmas because, you know, they're always just looking something for good and local. So, you know, that has been a great mix. Of course, during this time, we also have things like collards and kale and turnips. That we just grow a couple of acres of there to give people some fresh veggies. I know the broccoli, my 2-year-old can't get enough of it, I'm sure, you know. So it's just a space that we can provide some of those local or, you know, vegetables that are seasonal. We have Tony's Ice Cream now. We kind of made that change. Cotton Hill was a great advocate for them last year, and we were looking for something new. They're also a family business in Gastonia, North Carolina, who've been just a great addition to our roadside market for our ice cream. This is just a few of the pictures from our store. We also make a lot of gift baskets during the Christmas time with our jarred products. And then we also kind of extend that into Valentine's Day as well, so that's been nice. agritourism, which I think you guys are calling it agritainment now. I think we're changing what we're calling it, but it's all the same. Obviously, you know, fall has been just a really big draw in South Carolina to get people to come. And, you know, it's a time for us where peach season is over and we can kind of reconnect to the community. We've been in the pack house for 3 months. We haven't seen the light of day, really. We get there when it's dark and we leave when it's dark. So it's nice to get out and start reconnecting with our community. With the fall activities especially. We have a corn maze. And speaking of connecting with the community, we typically do it to where a portion of our ticket sales will go to something local. So that's been a really good outreach for us. It also, you know, brings people in because they want to support those programs as well. So that's something that we incorporate during the fall time with our corn maze. Also, you know, people love the pumpkin patch, right? So I guess it was about, what, 12, 15 acres of pumpkins? 30. It was a lot. We had about 25 different varieties. And we do a true you-pick pumpkin patch where they come, they ride the wagon out to the pumpkin patch. We give them a pair of clippers and a wheelbarrow, and they actually go out and get into the pumpkin patch and clip their own. So it's kind of a true experience, which a lot of people love. We also have continued field trips. Of course, our mom is here. She did a presentation, maybe 10 years ago, and they were kind of on the forefront of inviting children, and we've continued that program, especially with pumpkins and strawberries as well, just to bring the school trips to schools to our farm. Because it really is amazing. It's neat to show children where their food comes, right? And during strawberry season, we do have like a lot of tractor trailers kind of coming in to our farm at that point, and sometimes they can see that. And I'm like, guys, this tractor trailer is backing up to our store. And how many strawberries do you think we're putting on there? Can we eat all those strawberries? And they're like, no. I'm like, can our town eat all those strawberries? No. You know, and so they really see the magnitude of what our small town is producing, right? You know, they're feeding just more children than here in our small community. So I do think that's an important thing that is something that we'll continue to do. And then something that we started a couple years ago was our vendor days. This is just a really easy thing for us to do to get some local craftsmen at our store. They do the advertising. They let their customers know where they will be, and they come set up in our parking lot. We do one at Christmas time and another one in the springtime. And so it's just another way to get more people out, and it's kind of a built-in thing where, again, those vendors are doing their own advertising, letting people know where they're going to be, and then they come set up our store. So it's not a whole lot of setup for us, which is nice to have one of those types of events. And we talked about our grandfather, Campbell McLeod. When he retired, he started accruing a lot of vintage things, including cars, farm equipment. Some would call it junk. He definitely called it his treasures. There's toys in there. There's all kinds of fascinating things. So we ended up having to build a building right next to our market to house all of these items that he collected in the last years of his life. So if you do stop by our market, sometimes it's tucked away and people don't know to step next door, but it is a really fun thing to walk through and to see all what's in there. And then, of course, Dad's sister, our Aunt Beth, opened up a small restaurant next door called Biggs Meats and More. It started as a butcher shop, just kind of making some hamburgers and fries, and now she definitely has a crowd coming for her homemade pimento cheese and her meat and 3 Monday through Friday, or Tuesday through Friday, I guess. So that's just another kind of addition to our market to help people come in, eat lunch, go walk around the museum, and then come over to the market for some fresh produce and dessert, a peach enchilada.
So put this slide in here, you know, we're like every farm. You know, we have issues and problems, and you know, we wake up and we got to solve them. And I think our biggest, you know, with what we do is managing our time and trying to find what is the best thing to do today to get the jobs done. and that's always a difficult thing to do in anybody's operation, and prioritizing that. So we kind of just threw this up there, that those are our challenges too. And you know, farming is not the easiest thing, but it's waking up and wanting to get it done and to hit it head on. But we look towards the future. You know, we got some neat videos of this past week. We're cleaning up some pine trees to plant some more peach trees. And so this is a little shot of what we've been doing this past week. But we definitely are planning for the future and the 6th generation. That's Rachel's kids, my kids, and our sister's kids. And so we're excited for what that holds for McLeod Farms. I think that's it.
Wow.
Thank y'all. Any questions? I don't know if did we take up enough time or?
We'll get a few questions.
Yeah, well, I'd rather talk about what y'all want to hear about too.
You do any overhead protection on your strawberries or everything?
We used to do overhead irrigation, but now we're strictly row covers. When we did, and then we started doing some combination overhead and row covers, but we're pretty much strictly row covers. Less disease issues.
Temperature, how low do y'all get?
We can get in the teens. Last winter, last Christmas, you know, we were down, you know,
We don't cover up everything.
yeah.
What's coming, we don't cover up everything.
Yeah, this next 3 weeks where we're getting down in 19. Right, what you saw there, that was our winter berries, and so we're basically just using two 1.5 or 1.25 ounce cheesecloth, and that's pretty much giving us our protection. That took us. We started picking those berries November 1st, and we've been picking them strong until we've slowed down on our production in the past 2 weeks. But basically, that we've had a pretty mild fall too. Any other questions about? We're an open book, we've been here because of being an open book with others and learning and coming to this show and having great colleagues and friends that can share in the challenges that we do every day.
One thing I think this year,
We've strictly used our wind machines on peach. And one thing that we didn't show is we also use heat when we run wind machines. So we burn straw. We grow rye for seed, and we'll actually bale that straw that we then use for heat during those frost nights. So that's kind of a different, you know, with smudge pots or in the past burning tires. You know, but of course we don't do that anymore. But you know, adding that heat really helps that wind machine be more effective. Yeah. Any other questions?
All their Instagram photos and come back.
Well, one pumpkin. We had a group of girls that went out.
Like, well, wait a second, they took up a whole for the public to come in. They can walk.
And we started doing pick days too on that. So we have Saturdays as a U pick day. But that is becoming a thing, you know, or I see that more often is admission fee
But,
for the opportunity to pick at the same price as you can buy it in the store, right?
but
Any other questions or?
one more question if you have a question. Well, thanks again, and they say come visit them, so you can visit them and you'll get all the information, and you can buy some tremendously delicious peaches and strawberries and peach enchiladas along that line too.
All right, next. All right, so I feel like this mic doesn't even work, but can y'all hear me? Okay, cool. So the next farm is Rockin Farms, but Tim and Nichelle, Tim's daddy is in the ICU and is not doing so good, so they're not able to make it here today. But in a lot of ways, I feel like family with them, feel like family with a lot of y'all in the crowd. So I just told them if they was okay with it, I would represent them today. So here we go. Something that I really hope that you get from this farm, it compared to the McLeod farm, this is a very, very small farm. And I think what is fun about this particular session is that there are all sizes, all kinds of farms that are represented in this room. And so that's why for the Georgia Spotlight Farm, I chose a very different farm. So what I hope that you get out of this is how they're part of their community and how they've made smart off-farm income choices as well as on-farm choices. So this is Tim and Michelle, and I want to share who they are, where they are, how they got started, because a fun part of their story is they started in 2008. So they it wasn't born into it, but I won't get ahead of myself. We'll get there. And then, of course, their income choices. So family, like I said, it comes first, which is why they're home right now, and I fully support that. Their oldest, Justin, and his family, they helped. Justin was at the home whenever they were actually doing all of starting up the hills and the planting and the plowing and all of that. And fun fact, Tim used to, and I think he still does, plow with a horse, which is really fun. People like to go out and watch him do that. And then in the middle, Cheyenne, that is their only daughter. Cheyenne passed away in high school, her senior year, which is very heartbreaking for the family. But what is really the blessing out of that is they have been so a part of their community and investing in their community that yesterday, for Cheyenne's 28th birthday, the community still does a kindness day in memory of her, and I just think that is really, really cool. And then their youngest, Jeb, is at UGA. He's a sophomore. He is rocking the current styles, let me tell you, with the mullets and the mustache, but he's the best kid I've ever met. All right, so they're located, you can see where Atlanta is, on the north side. They're still what would be considered Metro Atlanta, but in Canton, Georgia. So there's a lot of people around them, but they are on a dead-end road, so they have that challenge of how do you get people to come to you? And here is the list of things that they grow: bell peppers, broccoli, butter beans, cabbage, collards, corn, cucumbers, eggplant, green bean, kale, okra, peas, peppers, potatoes, squash, sweet potatoes, turnips, and zucchini. And then for all the vegetables, blackberries, blueberries, cantaloupe, cherries, figs, grapes, muscadines, peaches, pears, plums, raspberries, strawberries, tomatoes, and watermelon. And that is quite the variety on a very, very small acreage, but that just shows Tim's personality of I think let's try it. Let's try something different. Let's do a little bit of something different. And then we'll get into how he's able to extend his land. So here's Tim. How they got started, like I said, was 2008, which was, of course, a really rough year for a lot of families. And Tim, what he did was an autobotic tech, and then Nichelle was a real estate paralegal. And then their jobs just wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good year for their jobs. So they decided that they would make the hard choice. And a lot of you have probably been in this place where they eliminated all the things that they didn't, quote, need, or didn't want, sorry. They went to just what they needed. And then they decided, well, we have been farming fruits and vegetables and meats for our family. Let's do that because we love it. But it really, what started their journey to today is they were at their kids' school volunteering for a Heritage Day, and their local county Farm Bureau office, plug Farm Bureau, they asked them if they would sell at their market, their farmers market. And so this was the first time they'd ever sold anything. And they said yes. And so that starts the snowball effect, right? So from that first yes, they decided, well, we'll sell at an even larger farmers market, which was in Woodstock. So if you're familiar with Atlanta at all, you know that Woodstock is pretty big. And then Nichelle became the market manager for that, and she's done it for 12 years. And I'll get into more of that further down. And then people who wanted to buy direct but couldn't make it to a market like on specific days and specific times, that's really what kicked off the idea of like, well, you can come see us anytime you want to, and we're going to make it so we don't have to stop our whole world or hire someone to get you. So they have a honor system stand, and some of you may think that is crazy, but for where they're at, it's worked perfectly for them. And it obviously, if you were a lot larger and had agritourism or agritainment that we talked about, you could not do this. But with their honor stand, they literally just put tape with the price for what they had that day or that week, and people put money in the box, and people have always been honest about it, which is really cool. It gives me a lot of hope for like people in general. And so in building this honor system stand, what they did is they literally made a 4-pole building barn, and their local EMC gave them some spools to put out there, and they put a tablecloth over them, and they were ready to go. They set out their baskets, and people would come up. And of course, Tim, he is the one who is constantly like farming and doing stuff outside, and so he'll stop and talk to them at different points. This is what it looks like. And so really why I want to show this is like, I don't know if you're like me or different people, but sometimes you get caught up in like, if I can't make something perfect, I don't want to do it because I want it to look really good and I want it to be the best that it can be or whatever. And so I want to encourage you, wherever you're at in your farm journey, if you're not even started yet, or you want to try something new, it's okay to do it. So anyways, I love that and respect them for making it happen. So in talking about off-farm income, obviously from the recession in 2008, it was not a light switch transition to just instantly we're farming, it's paying our bills. That's a dream. It does not happen like that. And so for them, of course, it didn't. Tim, as he was transitioning on, he would repair cars at their house. He also had a lawn mowing business. And then Nichelle worked at a preschool. So those were things that they did as they were building up what they were doing. But the manager position that I was talking about for the farmers market, that was a really smart move for them because not only do they get a check from doing that, but they also get a free spot at the farmers market, so they're not paying weekly. Also for health insurance, I think this is brilliant. To be a school bus driver, I know it's not glamorous depending on which kids you have to pick up. I'm aware of that. But it's so early. It's such a short window of time that you have to work and you get health insurance. And so it's a great plug-in. And it worked really well for her. And then she actually is a bus driver for special needs children. And it has, that community has been so special. And we'll get into that more for them. And then lastly, on this bottom one, this is not an income, but it's a goodwill scenario. So with the special needs kids, their class project is to build, they call them duck crackers, but quackers, because the school service dog is named Duck. And so anyways, they make these treats for dogs, and so Nichelle will sell them at their market, and they sell out every time, and it's a way for her to support her community and for people to see very easily that she's caring for her folks, even though she doesn't make any money off of it. All right, talking about on-farm income options. So the first one being gift baskets. A lot of you who are in operation right now, you do gift baskets. This literally started, she made a gift basket for a friend, and then word spread. And so now Mother's Day, Christmas, birthdays, she is constantly getting requests for these gift baskets. And some of them are like her jams and jellies that she makes. But what makes her gift baskets different or unique is she will sell potted like a tomato plant and her recipe book, because they made a farm recipe book. So it's really fun to see that it's a different kind of gift basket. And that's a picture. And then another income that they have is chickens. So they will either buy the chicks, because you can, crazy enough, you can buy chicks through the mail, all kinds. My dad used to love that, side note. But, or they will hatch out chicks and they will raise them up so that they are laying age. Because a lot of the people who are wanting to get into farming, those backyard farmers, especially around Atlanta, who doesn't know anything or much, they want to be able to buy a product that's ready to go. Give me the eggs. I don't want to raise it up. And so he saw this need, and that was something that they were able to make money off of. And then another thing is, because he grows such a wide variety of stuff, and he will try out all kinds of heritage vegetables, different old tomatoes that you would never find in the grocery store, just different varieties, and people want those. And again, they don't know to save your seed and plant it and that sort of thing. He has built now a greenhouse, so he'll start out his seedlings, and then he'll sell it as plugs, ready to go in your garden. And that has worked as a revenue. And it has also, it pays for all of his seeds and makes a little bit of profit off of it. So it's been a good fit. And then flower bouquets. Y'all probably heard of this a lot, because flowers are probably the highest margin on about anything that you've got. But what I love is that Tim, you've seen a picture of him. He is a manly man, a man's man. But he is the one who puts all of these bouquets together, and they're just gorgeous. And that has been a really great fit for both on the farm. They literally will make bouquets and set them at the stand, with their sticker tag or whatever. And people will come by and buy the bouquets off of his stand, or they'll sell them at the farmer's market, special request, anything like that. All right, now comes my favorite one to talk about, is farm camp. And so farm camp started whenever, because Nichelle's plugged in with the school system, with her bus driving and stuff, some teachers actually asked her, hey, Nichelle, we have post-planning, can you keep our kids? And so for 3 days, she had 8 kids, and those 3 days may have felt a little longer than 3 days, but she was these kids, they were feeding with us, they were gathering the eggs, they got out washable paint, and they have all these animals, and so they were hand painting the horses and having a big time. I mean, these kids left disgusting, right? They were so dirty, but they had the best time. And when they left, I think it left Tim and Nichelle with this feeling of we've done something good. We've educated, we've inspired these kids, and we've really had an impact on their life. And so from there, they do it every year. They have multiple weeks of farm camp, and they have, lots of kids that they have come out. And I'll show some pictures in a minute because they're just so stinking cute. And then educational classes. So once they had the kids, I think that broke the ice for them to say all ages need to learn about the farm and how things grow and just the cycle of life. And so now they invite all ages to come out, and all abilities. And I think that that's really cool too. So they have the special needs classes will come out, and it's a lot of really cool sensory stuff. And I know that can be maybe scary if you don't know somebody's ability. And the farm, you can think there are dangers everywhere. But those classes are set up with different parapros to come and to watch the kids, and that has been a really rewarding time for them. And their local farm bureau would do educational classes and whatnot. So those are some pictures. This is farm camp, which will look different for everybody who ever wants to do farm camp. I personally have no desire for me or my future children to hug a chicken this way, but it's great. And as long as they take a shower after, But painting toenails of chickens, I know that may it can seem a little crazy, but let me tell you, these kids love it. And if they get so excited, they're gonna remember this way up until till they're gray, So this is what they do with farm camp. It's some more pictures because I just couldn't leave any out. They're just too cute. And then talking about beneficial partnerships. So maybe not a direct line for off-farm or on-farm income, but partnerships are very beneficial. So for the first one is a beekeeper. They're like best friends with a beekeeper. Who could ask for a better friend, really? So a friend comes out and leaves his bees, and so they give them those pollination services. But in return, Tim and Nichelle will buy the honey at wholesale, but then they're able to resell that honey at their market. So they do actually make a little bit of money off of it, but it's a win for both sides, and I really love to see that. Next, sharecropping. I feel like this is a term that we haven't heard in a hot minute. I don't know how common it is to do nowadays, but so the farm I've been talking about this whole time, and all that they do is just under 5 acres, which is wild, right? They've been able to support their family on it, but they have, and their neighbors, they've made great relationships, and so what they've done is their neighbors let them actually farm their land for free, but what the neighbor wants is the produce, because who wouldn't love to have a garden and not have to work it? So that's what they do. So great partnership. And then chefs. So they sell a lot of their produce to chefs, which has been really good. I hope that you can read these names because I really don't want to try to pronounce them. But Holly Shute, I do know how to say that one. And she is the Georgia Grown, or was the Georgia Grown chef. So it's been a lot of fun for them to be able to work with these chefs. And so I would say, like, that's another relationship that you can work within your community on. And then lastly, and I didn't put this in there, but I'm really touched that they did, because I get the pleasure of running Georgia Farm Bureau's Certified Farm Market program. And so through this program, farms are listed in a farm passport, and people travel the state with their passport, and they literally stamp like you would when you go to a country. You stamp to go to a farm, and then at the end of the year, based on how many stamps you have, is how many prizes you have earned. So 5 is a t-shirt, 10 is ag swag, 20 is a farm to table dinner and tour, where we get to take these folks, like, enjoy having a meal with them, but actually get them to tour the farm and let them learn, because they've obviously proved that they want to know more about agriculture. And then the prizes go up from there. So this year we're still getting passports in, but we've had 4 couples who have gone to every single farm in the program, which was last year 93. And I just think that that's, like, really cool. I love to see how many farms people like to go to. And I'm geeking out over that information, but I will move on. All right, so because this was me talking and not Tim and Nichelle, I definitely did this a lot quicker. But I know the farm well enough that I can answer your question. But this is their email as well. And then my email, if you have any questions of, like, if you too want to be in the farm passport. So, yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
All of those things are not normal farming activities, right? So do they have to have a different type of liability insurance than the farm liability insurance?
I'm so glad that you asked that question. The second speaker after lunch is Rawlings. Madge, I really should learn his last name because he is a coworker, but I never see him. Anyways, he is coming specifically to answer those questions, so please come back. But my understanding, for their, like, farm stand that you can just come up and buy to, they don't have to have special insurance for that. But the weeks of farm camp with the kiddos, They do, and they will write like a liability, like you should sign your child's life away just in case. Yeah. Hopefully that helps, but please come back. Is there any other questions? Okay. What?
Well, I'll give away one, and you go ahead and finish what you're going to do.
Oh, no. Well, I was just thinking, we're 8 minutes early, but that may give, is your speaker here?
Yes, he is. So come on up, and we'll load him up.
Yes. And we can maybe get started a couple minutes early. Yeah.
All right.
Howdy. Again,
Get up to the microphone.
so my name is Tony Thrasher, and what we're going to talk about today is aquaponics. One thing I'm not going to talk about is how to create a commercial aquaponics facility for your place. So I just want to clear that up right off the bat. I have seen them. The one thing that I have not seen is a successful commercial aquaponics system yet. I've seen some out there that have lots and lots of university funding, but I haven't seen one that's successful on its own that the farmer's actually making profit from. So I'll clear that right off the bat. However, how many of you have heard of aquaponics before? Most everybody's heard of it. It's very intriguing to most everybody because it's a natural type of ecosystem. So most everybody that comes to our farm, what we're trying to, can you not hear me still? Wow, yeah, let me just put it right in my, okay, so aquaponics is one of those things that a lot of people have heard about anyways. And most people that come to our farm, what we're trying to do is create wow experiences. So that's kind of what I talked about here, is creating a customer experience, because what we want to do is every time that somebody comes to our farm, most of the time it's that first impression we're trying to capture and make sure it's the best that it could be. So every time they come, I don't know how many times I hear wow. They just walk in and they look here and it's like wow, and then they look here and it's like wow, and they look here and it's like wow. So that's what we're trying to do, is create wow experiences for our farm. And the aquaponics system that we put in was specifically put in for a wow feature. Now what we're going to also do with it, and I don't think I really have that included in the presentation, but we're going to utilize it as a training experience as well. So we're going to be able to do aquaponics training just to say, here it is, here's how it works, and all that kind of stuff, because people want to know more about it. When they see it, they're like, what? How does that work? So we're going to do some training on it. We don't have any of that set up just yet, but that's kind of coming. So what is aquaponics? Aquaponics is aquaculture, which is the cultivation of fish farming, and it's combined with hydroponics, which is the cultivation of plants using a water-based nutrient solution with or without a medium. So sometimes they'll use coconut coir, sometimes they'll use rockwool cubes and stuff like that. I've even seen them do it just by itself, like the seed by itself will just grow. So if you're using like a germination table. So it's just a combined culture of fish and plants and a recirculating system. Basically, it's a duplication of a pond system. Because if you've ever seen a pond, for the most part, it's really hard to keep the banks of the pond clean. If any of you have a pond, you know what I'm talking about, because I got a 4-acre pond, and it's unbelievable how fast it will grow back. So a brief history of aquaponics. And just ancient times, they would take like rafts. They would build wooden log rafts, and they would float them in. The Aztecs and the Chinese basically would float these, and they would grow their crops out in the water. So this is nothing new. This has been around for a really, really long time. This is kind of my history. This is not all the history. This is my familiarity with it. In the 1970s, there's UVI in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Dr. James Ricosi created an aquaponics system. Sounds like he's kind of one of the early founders of the aquaponics systems that we know today. I did find recently, just through some more research, that in the 1980s, North Carolina State University did some work. And out of that work, S&S Aqua Farms came about. And then Friendly Aquaponics came about. I don't know exactly when they came about, but I think it was in the 90s. I actually attended one of the friendly aquaponics trainings up in Tennessee, and that was at Green Acre Organics in 2012. No, I'm sorry, that was down in Florida. I went down there and visited Gina and Tanya. That is their system there. And then that's where I went to friendly training up at Randy Campbell's place in Elora, Tennessee. And that's his aquaponics system. So the types of aquaponics fish, you name it. You can pretty much put anything in an aquaponics system, even shrimp and guppy and prawn and all kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that will survive very well inside of an aquaponics system. Most people will use tilapia. Oh, wrong button. Most people will use tilapia. Some people will use trout if they're in a colder climate, because tilapia need the water temperature to be much higher than trout do. So what do fish need? They need water temperature. And that's very fish dependent. So like I said, tilapia is like 60, I think I have mine on 68 degrees. I have a water heater in my water system. It's set on 68 degrees. If it gets down to like 60 degrees, they start to get ill. If it gets down to 50 degrees water temperature, they die. It's toxic for them. There's also stocking density, how many fish you can put in a system. For most of the information I found is about 50 pounds per 100-gallon tank, fish tank. You obviously have more water in a aquaponic system than that 100-gallon fish tank, but it's about 50 pounds per 100-gallon tank. You got a dissolved oxygen, you got your water pH levels, ammonia levels, nitrite levels, nitrate levels. You have your feed. That's very dependent upon how many fish you have, what size they are, and then just monitoring your suspended solids. Where do you find your fish? You can go to the local ponds, lakes, rivers. Just make sure you check your rules and regulations. South Carolina, it's a SCDNR. Just call them and ask them. Say, hey, I'm putting an aquaponic system together. Can I take fish and put them in my aquaponic system? If they say no, just find a local fish hatchery, pond stocker, or a fish farm. I actually found mine at southlandfisheries.com, and they delivered it to my place. So there's a lot of, and you can go to local pet store if you wanted to use guppies or something like that. Types of aquaponics plants, you name it. Just pretty much everything. The only thing that I can say about this is most of the time you're going to see lettuces, basil, cilantro, those leafy greens. I see cucumbers and tomatoes and all that kind of stuff, but it depends on what type of system you're putting in. Ours are raft systems, so that kind of stuff is not going to work very well for a raft system. I have seen it work, but for the most part, we're just doing leafy greens. And we are going to try strawberries. I'm going to see how that works. What do the plants need? Everybody in here is farmers, so they know pretty much what plants need. Germination, light, nutrients, nitrites. The water pH levels are important. Good to quality water. You got to have a growing medium of some sort to allow the root growth. And then you need air temperature to be in the water and the air temperature to be in the correct range. So this is our system. The system is very expensive. I didn't pay that for this system. I actually found this system at a solar job that we were putting in. It was sitting in a barn. It was a dermatologist that had bought it for his daughter, and they were no longer using it. So when I saw it, I was like, well, that's pretty neat. I had seen them before in the past just because I'd been to a lot of aquaponics seminars and stuff and visited a lot of places. So, and then when I saw that, I was like, man, there's no way I'd spend $8,000 to put this in for a wow feature. That's a lot to put in. But I paid $1,100 for it, and then I brought it home and put it together, and it was still like brand new. So about our system, we built and started our system up in October 2023. Yes, we just put it in. We have checked pH, nitrate, and dissolved oxygen only once since startup. That was last week. Been doing fine. However, I got a 4-acre pond, so I pump water out of my pond and into my system. The fish live in the pond, they have for 50 years, so I haven't had any problems. I checked the nitrate and pH and all that kind of stuff just so I could say I did it once. I wasn't even worried about it because I pump and dump, so I dump the solids settling tank periodically, usually about once a day to once every 3 days, depending upon what it needs. and then it just automatically refills from the pond. So I don't have a closed system, so to speak, where I have to really monitor all of these things. If you're doing a closed system and you're not doing a pump and dump system, you'll have to monitor these things a lot more closely to make sure they don't get out of hand. So we drain solid settling tanks, like I said, every 2 to 3 days. And drain some of the water from the fish tank about once a week. Just watch the water. If it starts getting kind of cloudy, I'll just drain down, usually about 6-7 inches down to the top of the sight window that's in the tank, and then just let it fill back up just to refresh that water in their tank. Our system refills automatically from our 4-acre pond every time we drain anything or as water evaporates. There's an inline water heater that we have set to 65. I actually moved it up to 68. Just because it got so cold outside, I didn't want it to keep dropping below 65. So 65 was okay, but as the temperature outside kept dropping, as it brought in water, the water temperature kept getting colder in the pond. So it would really nosedive down to like 56, 57 degrees when it would replenish. So I moved my temperature up to 68 to try to help buffer that a little bit. Most of our farm is powered up from our solar PV system, so we don't have to worry about too much about the heating and all that kind of stuff with the water, but I do manage it just because I don't want to use all of my solar power generation just for heating this aquaponics system. So this is our aquaponics system. This is when we was originally putting it in. I did a quick, I think it's just a 1-minute video or something like that, just showing the system components. That was the fish tank. This is the solid settling tank. I think they call it a clarifier. That's where your nitrates are converted, and they call it a demineralization tank. And then this last one is called a degas tank, where basically you're just getting rid of a lot of the extra gases and stuff like that. This sends it outside into our greenhouse. There's our grow beds. Again, I said this is when we first put it in, so I don't have anything in it just yet. But I just wanted to show you a quick glimpse of, that was just a video that I had. So that's in October 2023 at startup. If I remember correctly, the dates I put on the tags for the plants were like 10/21/23. So that's about when this took place. You can see the fish are, I got an array of sizes of fish. So we put about 500 fish in there because I called Southland Fisheries and I said, I need 100 tilapia. And he called me up and he said, Tony, he said, I tell you what, you're starting up this aquaponics system. These fish are going to die on us. I'm just going to send you what I have left. Okay. So he said, I'm only going to charge you for 100, but I'm going to send you what we have left. When they got there, he just kept scooping them out and kept scooping them out. I don't know. There was a lot. There was probably 500. We lost a lot right in the beginning, but that's okay. So it's stabilized out. We still have probably 200 or so in there. There's a lot still in there. So as they get bigger, we're going to move them. I've got a bigger tank. I got an 800-gallon tank that we have not put into the system just yet, but it's coming. So we're going to move some of the bigger fish out of this tank and into the bigger tank. So that's the grow beds with the rafts on it. You got different spacings for different growth rates. You can tighten those holes up for your smaller plants. And then as they start growing bigger, you can space them out. So you get like Salanova lettuces are great in these kind of systems. So that was just this week. You can see the size of the fish are a lot bigger already. I mean, a lot bigger already. So this hasn't changed a whole lot, except we did put in a fish feeder. And I changed the light. There's actually a light underneath this system now that I bought that changes intensity throughout the day for the fish. It's like a grow light for an aquarium. So, and then that's our lettuces. So we've harvested some and replanted. But those are what we started in October, late October. And we also planted some in the greenhouse at the same time, and they're about half that size. So it definitely grows a lot faster. So poly tanks, you don't have to pay $8,000 for a system from Nelson & Pate if you don't want to. You can go to Polytanks, polytankco.com. You can buy those tanks and put your system together and just go buy PVC pipes and stuff. The thing about buying a kit is they tell you exactly how you need to put it together, and they tell you how to do it. but you're paying that high dollar count for that knowledge, okay? That's really what it's all about. That I do know that 800-gallon tank that I bought was $1,000, so that gives you an idea. For a big tank, it was $1,000. I don't know what a 100-gallon tank would be, but I would almost bet you it would be $400 or $500 for that tank by the time you get it to your farm for sure. So those are the fish tanks, conical bottom tanks, and then your grow beds. Any questions? Yes.
How have you been dealing with pest management?
I haven't had a problem yet. I have in the greenhouse in the past had like gnats and stuff like that. We use Natrol on the other plants and stuff. At some point, we would probably have a problem, but in an aquaponics system, you cannot put anything on them. So we would probably just have to pull them. Yeah. Yeah, so one thing that you could try to do, we are in the process right now of building a screen to put around our 52-inch automatic shutter on the opposite end of the greenhouse of the fan. Because every time it opens, anything can fly in. So we have thrip screen all along the roll-up curtains at the bottom, but we don't have anything over that. The other side I'm not too worried about because anytime that shutter is opened, the fan is on. So nothing's coming in that way. But we're sucking everything in from the other end. So I have my brother fabricating a frame right now. We're going to take wiggle wire channel and go all the way around it. And then they call it thrip screen. And we're going to put thrip screen all around that screen shutter to keep stuff out. And it just came to me that I guess in that system, if we had a lot of problem with the gnats and stuff like that on our aquaponics beds and we can't treat it, we could create a thrip screen enclosure just for those two beds if we wanted to. Yep. Yes, sir.
Do you use an aerator?
Yes. Yes, there's just a little air pump that pumps air it pumps it into the fish tank, into the degas tank, and into the grow beds. It's not in the solid settling tank, and it's not in the demineralization tank. So those two tanks don't have oxygen in them. But all the other tank, both beds, the degas tank and the fish tank, they have oxygen being pumped in all the time, 24/7. Yes. So when everybody walks in, they see the fish. The lights are on. So you saw the picture of it. They're like, wow. So to me, it's just one wow, right? So the other thing is just our farm center is very nice. When you walk in, the farm center itself is very nice. We built a very nice wooden cabinet for our jams and jellies and sauces and stuff like that. So it's like captures your senses everywhere you look. And then they look and out the double door glass French doors and they see the greenhouse. They see all the plants, and then we open up the walk-in cooler and they see our huge walk-in cooler that we actually operate off of solar, and we'll talk about that this afternoon. And then we have a high tunnel, and we have a 4-acre pond, and we have solar panels. So everywhere you look, we're creating just wow, wow, wow. So every farm is going to be different. You have to create it for yourself. And the one thing, I don't know if everybody's from Georgia here. I know we're in Georgia, but if you're in South Carolina, and I'm sure Georgia has one too, I'm just not familiar with it. I'm a board of director member for the South Carolina Agritourism Association. And if you have an agritourism association here in Georgia and you're in Georgia, you should join it. If you're in South Carolina, you should join the South Carolina Agritourism Association. And you should start going to the conferences and visiting the farms like she talked about a while ago with the passports. Because when you go to other people's farms that do agritourism and they focus a lot of efforts on agritourism, you will get ideas for the wows for your farm. We have just opened, so we're not charging really anything. That won't be a charge for if we do a training, it will be. But just to see it, no. But we have a projector and a screen and all that kind of stuff. When we do trainings, we'll probably limit it to about 20 people because we had 50 people come that day that Chalmers came, and that was way too many people. We will eventually have a barnyard experience. We're putting in a new playground, a large rainbow system. We're going to have it where we can do events. We're going to have Easter egg hunt. We're going to have a spring festival. We're going to have a fall festival. A lot of things we're just now starting to try to put together, but we're still trying to finish infrastructure around the farm right now. Yes?
Just explain your farm structure, what y'all do, produce, and it's just because I'm unfamiliar.
Sure. We're new. My farm, you can look us up, athrashersfarm.com, and we're on the Facebook at A Thrasher's Farm, so we're pretty easy to find. Our farm, I bought it in 2002, and I've been working on it nonstop since. It never stops. But we started off with pigs. Pigs tore my pastures all to pieces. So we moved to cows. We started raising cows, and then we started selling quarter beef cows, and then that's a nightmare. So I'm glad we got the farm store finally finished and put a double-door glass freezer in. So now we sell retail cuts of our grass-fed beef. We have 2 commercial greenhouses. One of them is 26 by 96. It's got a concrete floor. That's where we grow all of our plants, all of our starts for plant sales and all that kind of stuff. We grow flowers and stuff. That one has an underground heating and cooling system in it called a subterranean heating and cooling system. So I do HVAC also, so I got all kind of crazy stuff going on. Then we have a high tunnel that's a 30 by 84 where we grow in the ground. We grow everything organically, but we're not going down the path of trying to become organically certified. There's too much paperwork with it. We're doing everything that they want you to do, but we just don't have time to deal with all their craziness. So then we have 100 blackberry plants. We got the 4-acre pond. We're probably going to do a fishing experience. We might do tournaments or something. We're going to try to figure out ways to get the farm to the point to where it sustains itself. That's my goal. I'm not looking to make millions off the farm. I want the farm to allow me to stop dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. That's my goal, because I've done that over the past 20 years. Yeah, so everybody else has too. So agritourism, I'm telling you, agritourism is a way to help with that, because you got to get your people volume up, and you got to create people experiences. And you got to be people. So when people come to your farm, it's hard to go, somebody else. You got to stop and put a smile on and go talk to these people and befriend them, because that's your one shot. You know, you got one shot at a first-time impression. So you got to create that impression. So we have the cows. We have chickens. We have a 20 by 20 it's like an awning carport that we put sleds on, and I can move it around with my mini skid steer that I have, a little Ditch Witch mini skid steer. We started off with about 70 chickens. I think we have about 30 in there now. We ended up putting solar power at the bottom, a solar fence charger with a power hot wire at the bottom to keep all your ground predators out. And then we ended up putting 1/4-inch fencing around, mesh fencing around it. Automatic water, automatic feeders, automatic nest rollout boxes. Try to automate everything, so just to keep me from having to deal with it so much. So I think that's much. Yes. So when we grow in the high tunnel, all the tomatoes and everything, and we do a leaning and lowering. We use clippers. You've never heard of clippers before? If you've got a greenhouse and you've heard of the leaning and lowering method, and you got the spools and all that kind of stuff, look up QL. It might be IPR or QLPR. It might be QLPR. Clipper system. It's out of, I don't know. It's overseas. But basically, it's a wire. It's a pretty cool system. If you hadn't seen it, you ought to look it up. It's called a clipper system. Pretty neat. Any other questions? I don't know yet. I thought about it. I'm not sure. We're going to have to make a decision on what we're going to do at some point. I tell you, moving forward, I don't know if I'm going to do tilapia, because we have a 4-acre pond, because we have largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, black crappie, and bluegill in the pond. We may move to one of those varieties, because I know those varieties survive and I don't have to heat my 4-acre pond. And I could restock my pond I could let people pay me to fish, and then I could just use my wow feature in my aquaponics system to replenish when they take them out. So I'm trying to close systems all the way around. So we're probably gonna move away from tilapia. It's just what I started with because everybody else starts with that. You know, you try to use everybody else's experience to start somewhere. So that's where we started. But I might even do minnows and sell minnows. Maybe minnows in my little fish tank, just because you can get thousands of them in there, right? And then do the largemouth bass, and maybe rotate largemouth bass one go round, and largemouth bass will take you. You know, you buy them as fingerlings, and takes you 6 to 8 months or whatever to get them up to where they're good size to put them in the pond. And I'll do that in that 1,000-gallon tank or 800-gallon tank, and then take them out to the pond. And next time I'll buy something different, a different variety, and then put those in the pond, and then keep minnows in the fish tank that I have right now, the 100-gallon one, the small one. So I'm thinking, my wheels are turning. So what else? Yes. Solids currently, they go in the ditch down there. My pond drains out into like a ditch, and currently they just go into the ditch. But it's not a lot. I mean, I got a really, really small system, so I saw a shake of the head, but my pond is a 4-acre pond. There's a whole lot more fish in that pond than there is in my little 100-gallon tank. So it's not any different, okay? But we're wasting a lot of minerals and nutrients. We're going to we've already put in the piping that's going down to the ditch that has a T in it. We're going to create beds like, they call it something, but basically it's like a solids drying bed. And we're going to drain out and pump it to these beds that's going to have gravel and sand or something, and we're going to put the poop on top, and we're going to have at least two of them, and that way we can go to that one maybe for a week, and then just turn that one off and start going to that one, and then we can just go in here and rake this one off and take that and put it back in the high tunnel. So we're trying to close the loop. What else? I saw another hand a while ago. Somebody else? I don't know where we're at on time. Are we okay? Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Tony?
Yes, sure.
Do you drain your pond to restock?
No, I have never drained my pond to restock it. You know, people talk about doing the retinol and all that kind of stuff and killing off fish and starting new and all that stuff. I've never done that. My pond was put in, when I bought it in 2002, it had been there at least 50 years ago. My father-in-law used to deliver cigarettes to a little store that was on my pond. And it was not there, you know, when we bought it, but he was like, I've been here before, you know, and, you know, over the next few weeks or whatever, he's like, I got it. I used to deliver cigarettes to a little store right here. So it was a pay pond back I guess 1950s, all right? So it's been there for a long time. And there's some big fish in there. I got some pictures of some big fish that's in that pond. So, no, we don't do anything. We don't do anything with it, but I did use Southland Fisheries told me to put in Pond Master or something like that. It's like a fertilizer for your ponds. And I did that, and I did their recommended program, and I got a large algae bloom. Not algae, but like grass kind of bloom. And I didn't do it again last year, but we also put in about a $3,000 aeration system to help compensate, because I think you have to watch everything, because when you put too many nutrients in, you don't have enough oxygen, you create wrong blooms. So we stopped the Pond Master nutrient program, and we got the aeration system put in, and we got the grass under control now, and we put in 500 tilapia, and we put in 20 more grass carp and stuff to get the grass back under control. And maybe next year we'll try the Pond Master again to try to make sure that the phytoplankton bloom is where it needs to be for the fish growth. Those are the kind of things that we're doing, is just managing what we have, and I've only stocked it one time in 20 years.
What size tilapia did you put in?
They were about that big. They were, about that big and maybe about that thick. And we put in 500. They're not going to survive. Tilapia will not survive when the water temperature drops below 50 degrees. They'll die out. And I actually told the guy at Southland Fisheries, I'm like, I don't think they died. He was like, they just bottom. They just go to the bottom. It's like, really? They don't float? He's like, no. And I've seen it. And some of the ones that have died in my aquaponics system have floated, but 50% of them have just floated to the bottom. And I've had to just dig them out, or just scoop them out. I have a lot of turtles in the pond. Don't mess with them. It's a natural ecosystem. I mean, if it was a problem, but it's a 4-acre pond. It's not a little bitty pond. So it's just like you don't really manage turtles too much out on a big lake either. It's a big pond. So I haven't seen an overabundance of turtles. I guess if there was an overabundance of turtles, there are turtle traps. And I have an air rifle, so. You know, if we could take care of them if we had to. I just haven't had to.
Well, the size of your of the lettuces from that base to the regular, I would think you should increase your grow beds there.
And it is, and the wheels are spinning, and instead of taking up valuable greenhouse area, we want to take what they call a non-working reefer container, 40 foot, and build a aquaponics grow area inside of that, and then just pump our water over into that and utilize, because we can just control our light. We can do everything exactly where we need it inside there. If we go that route, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it inside of a reefer container. Is that good? Yep. Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
Okay, so for our next speaker, I know in your printed paper it says the Hunts are coming in, but Steve just had stomach surgery unexpectedly. So, yeah, he can't come. However, we have been blessed with a really cool speaker. Peter Askew, as he's coming up, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but I'm really excited to hear from him because he started off buying online domain names and bought onions.com, and then now works with a farmer and is part of this whole world. And I think there's a lot to learn about e-commerce from him. So if he will, I'm going to say, if you have questions as he's going, I don't think he'd mind if you raised your hand and asked him. But he's going to be a really great resource with all things online. So, please don't be shy. And thank you. Welcome.
Sure. Yeah, do you want to start? We can start early, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you got
I'm sort of tall, so yell at me if I need to raise this microphone closer to my mouth. Okay.
Use the arrows or this.
Yeah, how do I advance slides?
If you want to use the arrows.
Oh, arrows, beautiful.
Or if you want to use that.
Yeah, like Kelly mentioned, I thought I'd just simply share kind of how we started some of these projects. And because we mainly kind of approached it as, jumping in the water and learning how to swim when we're there, especially from a web perspective. And yeah, so like Kelly mentioned, I'm Peter Askew. I'm co-founder of VidaliaOnions.com. I work with Aries Haygood at A&M Farms right in Lyons. They're primarily, we have kind of two business components of the business. I focus solely online, where we pack and ship Vidalias to the lower 48 states in season, typically from April to August each year. And we receive orders online, not through the phone, online through our e-commerce website. Place the order. We use a few e-commerce focused websites, and then we have a shipping management platform that we use. We have a relationship with UPS to print the labels out, and then we physically pack and ship boxes that are 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 25, and 40 pounds. And then we actively ship throughout the entire season. There's so many different small moving parts to this world. I thought I'd just kind of share how we started. And I remember kind of getting into the web world in the late 90s when I was trying to educate myself. How does this world work? Like, where do you get a domain name? How do you host a website? Do I want to even play with some of the back-end code of the website? But even if you don't want to mess around with the code, you can still do, a lot of sites are almost more like drag and drop these days, where you can build a website, have an online presence, and create another revenue stream for your farm or operation. It's been tremendously valuable for us just to kind of brand our farm, brand Aries' name as another resource in the Vidalia onion industry, and even help grow his kind of bulk shipping, where they're shipping, millions of pounds per year. We typically ship online between 60 and 80,000 pounds a year, just crop depending. But I was going to kind of go through and try to keep these kind of succinct. So I was just going to try to go through like 3 little different bullet points, how we can dip our toe in if you want to create another revenue stream for your farm, like where is one of the first places you can go. So for us, it all comes down and starts with the domain name. And there are businesses online called registrars, and you may have heard names like GoDaddy or Network Solutions or NameBright, Namecheap. These are businesses where you can go register a domain name. You can check the availability of a domain name, register it, and it's somewhat inexpensive. It's typically $15 to $30 per year, not per month, just per year to register a domain name. And as long as you continually renew the domain name, you have exclusive right to that name in perpetuity. But you can always abandon it or not renew it, and then it just goes back out for open registration. And so we've always leaned on the .com. There's a reason I put a big .com up there. We've always leaned on .com. There are lots of different extensions to register domain names, from .net to .org, .com, and even some new extensions coming out like .biz you may have seen, .info. We lean heavily on .com primarily due to the fact that it's been in use and branded for such a long time, since the mid-90s, where the general public, it's interesting to see our perspective when we see the general public trying to find us. The general public, what we found, reverts and leans on .com. Even if I've seen instances where I've built other projects and I try to educate them that we're on, say, a .net domain name, and the general public will go and just forget the fact that I said .net and type in .com. So .com has always been a good, they call it a top-level domain. It's a good extension to use where you're not going to confuse anyone, and it's easy to brand your either farm name or generic term. For our business here, we had the ability to buy this expired domain. Somebody had abandoned VidaliaOnions.com. I was able to buy it at an auction, and then I partnered with Aries Hagan at A&M to start shipping some of our onions. But some good registrars. Namecheap is one. I have several domains registered at Namecheap. GoDaddy and NameBright are 3 that come to mind if you want to start dipping your toe and registering a domain. And then, like, the next step is, where do you host your store? So you have a domain, and you have the option to basically point the domain to a physical website or a website that focuses on e-commerce operation. And there are kind of 3 that I have experience with. We started on this outfit called Big Cartel at the top, and I mainly started on them because they have a free option. They didn't charge. They allow folks to sign up for an account, post 5 products. If you go to 6, you have to pay. So at that time, and still to this day, we ship 4 boxes, 5 pound, 10 pound, 25, and 40. So it worked perfectly. So I built the site, and I had all of our images. I was at the farm. I would take photographs with my iPhone, and then I'd create the individual product, place a price tag on it, and then they have an e-commerce, they have a payment platform that they plug into. I believe they were using Stripe at the time. It's a company called Stripe that's a payment processor, and this is the third-party company that's helping facilitate the online transaction. And they'll take 2.9% and 30 cents a transaction. If you have credit cards at your company now, they'll take that small cut, but then you get the rest. But the operation of the website, entirely free from Big Cartel's standpoint, because at that point in our first year, this was 10 years ago when we started this online project, we were just dipping our toe to see if there was any demand for this type of service online. So we wanted to keep our costs as low as possible. And Big Cartel was a great way for us to dip our toe, but as we got bigger, one of the interesting limitations on Big Cartel. They didn't have the ability to send gifts. You have to, if you placed an order, you had to ship the product to the billing address. And we had a lot of customers coming saying, hey, I'd like to send some to my mom who's up in Nebraska. Is there a way I can ship this to a different address versus the, and so I started getting a lot of feedback, and I eventually graduated to a company called Shopify, which is where we have remained since that second year we went into operation, and they've been a great partner. Now these types of operations, Shopify, I believe it's around $20 or $30 a month. They're pretty nominal, and you can build your own somewhat simple, straightforward online e-commerce website. They have templates that you can physically choose and then take photographs of your products and upload the photographs and have certain products for sale with price points and place orders. And when orders come through, the money will be pulled out from the customer's credit card, put into your online account. Typically, there's a rolling deposit schedule that'll push the money from your credit card account into your bank account, and then you can fulfill the order. And then at that point, you can choose who you want to ship through, UPS, USPS, or FedEx at that point. Squarespace is another option that you can consider from an e-commerce perspective if you want to try to start selling products and services online. Yeah, but we've been happy with Shopify. It's been a great resource for us to use. I'm always curious on the analytics behind our website and understanding how many people are physically visiting the website. Are they engaged? Are they reading articles? Are they performing? Or even more specifically, if I'm paying for the traffic from if I'm paying for advertising from Facebook or from Google Ads, and I'm driving traffic to my website, I'd like to know if I have any type of return on investment. If I've spent $10 with Google Ads, has that converted to any type of sales on my website? And a lot of these website analytics tools can give me a kind of a peek behind the curtain to see. I almost see it as like the heartbeat of my website. If it's down and I'm not receiving anything, then I need to do something. I'm not either promoting it well enough or working to make sure the site can be indexed and pulled up within Google as a search engine, just from the free section within Google, and understanding if they're spending time on the site. Have I built a site that's captivating enough for them to hang around? Do you have a question?
Yeah. Level of detail.
Yeah. So a good example I can use is, so we advertise on Google. Google's advertising platform is called Google Ads, and so I can buy terms. I didn't want to go too far, but this is a great question. You can buy terms. So if somebody goes on to Google when we're in season and searches for the term Vidalia onions or buy Vidalia onions, well, doggone it, I want my ad to appear within that search result. And what the cool thing is, within Google, I can place essentially tracking parameters to that URL. So I'll have vidaliaonions.com, UTM, and pass and say this is from Google on the term Vidalia onions. And then Google Ads provides, they call it a tracking pixel. So I can put their tracking pixel on they call it a thank you page. And the thank you page is typically the last page you see after you've made a purchase. So I can catch the click to the website, browse, pick a box, purchase, thank you for placing your order. When that page loads, that tracking pixel fires and shoots back the information. It can even shoot back the purchase amount. So it can say, oh, this person, you paid 25 cents a click for that visitor. They came through, made a purchase. They bought a 50-pound box for, our 40-pound box for $120. And you can see you've earned gross $120, and then you have to determine out what your profit margins are on that.
But that requires knowing that when you're doing your ad purchase with Google, how to
do that. I'll tell you what a wonderful resource is. There is so much educational content on YouTube. Okay. Go to YouTube, search how to create a tracking parameter on Google Ads. And I guarantee you there are going to be about 20 different videos educating on you on every step on how to create it. And then your second one could be, how do I add a tracking pixel to Shopify in order to track? And then they'll show you, okay, cut and paste. A lot of it is just cutting and pasting a little snippet of code, and then going into your e-commerce website, pasting it and saving the page, and then doing some tests to see if, oh, is this working? Or am I actually seeing do some fake transactions? You can do that. Within Stripe, within some of the payment platforms, they have a test mode. So you can do a test mode. They have a test credit card number I think it's like 41414141. In test mode, it'll accept that credit card, and then you can see if the transactions are going through. If they are, then you can turn it on to live mode and then crush fingers and wait to see if any sales come through. These are 3 great little tracking website analytics companies I've used for years that have done a great job. Clicky, I have on Vidalia. Stat Counter is another one. These are all, the top 2 have free options up to a certain amount. Stat Counter might be free and they have ads across the site. Simple Analytics is just, I mentioned them, they have a beautiful user interface, very pretty graphs and charts. Clicky, I like, it's somewhat rudimentary, but still a lot of great data to soak in. Simple Analytics is just wonderfully simple to look at. They don't overwhelm you with data. They just give you the high points. How many visits did your website get yesterday? How long did they spend on your website? What's the average amount of pages that someone has viewed on your website? But mainly it's you kind of taking a peek at each one of those and seeing which one might be a good fit for your analysis or your style of analysis. So I covered 3, and I thought I'd just throw one extra credit. This has helped us out tremendously, especially if you have folks physically visiting your farm, or say you're at a farmer's market. Email marketing has been a tremendous blessing to us. So we run seasonally. So in my off season, I just have our website that we mentioned I showed on our homepage. It essentially reverts into just email capture, where I have folks submitting an email, their email address to me, indicating, hey, please notify me when the season has started. I call it the priority notification list. So I build out this email list where I have folks that have essentially raised their hand, notifying me, please send me an email when the season has begun and notify me when you're officially accepting orders. If you continually ship products or services throughout the year, heck, just send an email a month, just checking in. I often do it just keeping our customers up to speed on what we're doing at the farm. Are we planting? Are we doing our transplant? Are we planting the seed beds? Here's a video of our packing shed with the grading machine running and the sorter, the actual sorting machine moving all the onions down that big conveyor belt. Email marketing has been such a blessing for us, like I mentioned, and a lot of these companies have free options. I started on MailChimp, which is a great Atlanta-based company, but I've moved over to Email Octopus. They have I believe you can accept up to around 2,000 to 2,500 email addresses at no cost and send emails through their account. And when you graduate above 2,500, then you pay a nominal. It's maybe $9 a month for their email marketing. MailChimp's a little bit more expensive. It's one of the reasons I went over to Email Octopus. And then you can create emails within these email marketing platforms. And again, it's more drag and drop. It's choosing, do you want a header image? What do you want the text to say? You create a campaign, and then you essentially send it. And there, the email they take care of the email component, essentially ensuring that you have a better shot at landing in someone's email inbox versus their spam folder, bulk folder within Gmail if you use Gmail. They focus a lot of their time on making sure they have kind of a clean web presence, so the emails that they're sending aren't flagged for nefarious reasons. But these have been 3. A lot of my friends use MailerLite. They prefer the interface. You can go and check and see each one of their pricing models to see which one fits best for you, and you can always move. So I started on MailChimp. I decided to move over to Email Octopus. MailChimp was, for me, was adding too many bells and whistles. I simply just wanted an email system. I just needed to go in, create an email, and send it. MailChimp wanted to be all things for me. They were expanding into postcards, into physical phone numbers, email, and then they got acquired by Intuit. And it just became too big for me. Email Octopus is solely focused, and Mailer Lite, solely focused on email. And nice and just almost simpler for me, where I can just focus, jump in, send an email out, and then jump back out if I need to address a certain customer or a box didn't get delivered on time. But email has been wonderful. But from your perspective, if you go to a farmer's market, you can do something as simple as having just a piece of paper, a pad of paper, where folks can just physically write out. I see a lot of farms doing this. They can just write out their email address, and they're giving you permission to speak one-to-one to them. And I've found it's a more effective route. In addition to a Facebook profile, Facebook can sometimes limit your reach on the customers that follow you within Facebook. Email is wonderful because you're landing directly in their inbox, and you have a one-to-one. You're not going through a third party to speak to them. You have the ability to reach them directly and tap directly on their shoulder. Is another reason we kind of like the email marketing route. No, that's a kind of a quick overview from the domain name, finding a domain that might fit, or just buying your actual farm name domain and using a registrar to purchase that domain and paying it on a yearly basis. And then going through choosing an e-commerce platform that might be a best fit for you, populating it with a few of your products, or even you can populate it with tickets. If you guys offer like visitation to your farm or operation, you can sell tickets through some of these e-commerce operations as well. Then analytics, understanding kind of the heartbeat of your website. Where is traffic coming from? What are they doing on your website? Are they purchasing anything? And then this extra credit that I had for just email marketing has been a blessing, and collecting email addresses. And then it's a very inexpensive marketing route for you to speak to new or existing customers that have indicated they want to keep in touch with your operation. Yeah, and that kind of just wraps up everything. If you guys have follow-up questions, feel free to email them. I'm happy to help or give you my 2 cents or try to push you in the right direction. Happy to kind of pass along whatever we've learned. We're constantly tinkering every year with new products or services. We're trying to delve into YouTube right now. Like I'm the director. I'm filming Aries in the field, and we're trying to film an entire grow cycle. And so we've done the transplant. The transplants are in the field right now, and I'll probably go back here in about a week to film once the transplants are established some sort of kind of root base. But we're uploading YouTube videos to see if that could be another route where we can capture more customers. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 2 questions.
Yeah.
That's working with you.
It is me on this iPhone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Second question, that for you.
The way we did it, I set up a UPS account solely, directly, and then I plugged it into Shopify. Okay. So, and I use a third party for shipping management. After the first couple of years where we were getting enough orders, I didn't mention it in here because I didn't want to overwhelm everybody. There is another company we use called ShipStation. When you start shipping a fair amount, it speeds up the process of creating those UPS labels. So at the beginning of our season, I'll have thousands of orders that come in, and so I print out labels all at once, and then we go start fulfilling those orders. ShipStation speeds that process up. It's like I have an extra 2 or 3 employees helping me out, but it's all within ShipStation. I can bulk create, so I just pull in 250 orders. It's pinging UPS for the label. It pulls it into ShipStation, and it's creating the labels, and then it shoots it to my little Zebra printer, our thermal printer, and then labels just start coming out. And the way we built it, I have almost instructions on the bottom of all of our UPS labels for our pack and shed crew. So every label, individual label, every label is one box for us, is the way we built it. And at the bottom of each one of our labels, on each order, so say if it's a 10-pound box of jumbo-sized Vidalias, at the bottom of our label, I'll have 10 pound and then jumbo. And then we'll organize sometimes based on onion size, or weight, or whatever state it's shipping to. If we want to get a whole bunch of Montana out because it takes a little bit longer to get to Montana, we'll group together all the Montanas and get them out. East Coast is pretty quick, so sometimes we keep East Coast because we know it's about a day or two turnaround for UPS on UPS ground. ShipStation has been a big help as we started to grow, because I like to keep, and Aries is the same way. We like to keep it very, very lean from an operation, from an online perspective. This is the first year I've gotten help from a customer support standpoint. I have an old friend who grew up in Kingsland, Georgia, and he's going to help out from a customer support, because we have a lot of customers who prefer placing orders over the phone, and they just want to talk to somebody. Or sometimes it's a brand new customer, but they got burned at their grocery store. The grocery store in Lincoln, Nebraska had a sign that said Vidalia. Well, they bought them and they weren't Vidalia, and they are hot, and they want to make sure they're buying a legit, authentic Vidalia. And we're happy to talk to them. I love talking and explaining how we're planting, where we're physically located. You know, Aries won Grower of the Year back in 2017, 2018. And we're dead center, Toombs County, which is, one of almost the epicenter of Vidalia growing territory. So taking some of that fear away and then getting them over that. Because we know if we can get a box into their hands, we're quite confident they're going to enjoy their Vidalia, and then hopefully they'll come back and continue ordering from us, hopefully multiple times per season, and over the course of several seasons. Great questions, though. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. You're allowed comments. I think within UPS allows for a comment section. It's right next to the area that they allow for like special notes. So Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, and then you have a comment section. It's essentially injecting it into that comment section within a UPS label. And that's within ShipStation. So I create this tag within ShipStation. They place an order. This may be within Shopify because it's passing it over to ShipStation. They place an order for a 10-pound box. I have this tag that's tagged to the 10-pound box of jumbos. It passes it over to ShipStation and includes it at the base of our shipping label. And
But it's a two-part label, so they don't.
one-part label. So it's a single label with everything, with the UPC, with they have their own kind of QR code, if you know UPS, physical shipping address on the label, and then at the very bottom, sometimes they'll include, if it's a gift, they'll say, Happy Birthday we ship over Father's Day, so sometimes it's Happy Father's Day, or any other notes that we have, but it's also the direction for our packing shed. Sometimes companies do it twice. They'll have one label for instructions, or maybe it's a piece of paper that they'll put inside the box. I found it was easier just to include it on the actual UPS label, so there's no extra paper, our packing shed's wide open, doors wide open, we had gusts of wind through there, so I have a separate piece of paper it's going to blow away. I was like, man, it'd be nice if I just had it all within, everything is contained within one shipping label. But again, it goes back at whatever's most comfortable for you guys and works best for your operation. I just felt good including all of that information within one label.
And the customer sees that when they get their package, and it's not a big deal because it's nothing that you wouldn't want to.
Yeah, so it just says 10-pound jumbo at the bottom. Yeah. Plus any notes that they pass along. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do your product as you package and ship it, it is courier, sure, like on-time delivery?
We do. We solely use, at this point in time, we solely use UPS ground shipping. That's the one option. We like keeping it simple for our customers. We do UPS ground shipping. It's interesting doing it over our first year, we weren't sure how long it was going to take to get our box from Vidalia to Seattle, Washington. It's amazing. UPS does an amazing job. We can usually get that box from us to Seattle within 4 or 5 business days. As you can imagine, a 5-pound, a 10-pound box shipping 2-day or overnight is quite expensive. And most of the time our customers, we were expecting that they would bail. We've had a few shipments. So we typically ship to the lower 48. We've had some business customers that had customers in Alaska, and they were willing to pay the extra overage for shipping fees to Alaska. and they ordered, I think, a 10-pound box, or 10-pound box is, what is our 10-pound box? $50. And I believe the extra shipping was, I believe to Alaska was $200, and the guy just went ahead and paid it. It was a big customer of his, and the guy was originally from Georgia. He loved his Vidalias. So he paid the additional $200 to have it shipped to Alaska. Now, whether we change that, there's a possibility we change that. We ship, over 4th of July typically. So sometimes we get late orders. Somebody forgot to order their Vidalias, or they thought they'd be at the local grocery store and they sold out. And then they try to place an order, day before, and they don't mind paying an overnight or a 2-day shipping. So we may consider adding that option, but we wanted to keep the purchase flow very simple. 10-pound box of jumbos, enter in billing, shipping address, purchase. We roll in shipping prices into our flat fee, so there is no extra cost. Everything is one price. We didn't want to almost complicate things. I don't know if you guys are similar to me. When I purchase something online and the product costs $10 and the shipping costs $20, me personally, I typically bail. But when I see a product that costs $30 with free shipping or shipping included, I don't know what goes on in our little brains upstairs. It makes it a little bit easier purchase for me versus seeing the shipping is costing more than the physical product. So that was one of our first decisions. I want to include everything and figure out what the flat fee, even though we may lose a little bit of money on the shipment out to Washington, we'll make up that little bit on shipments out here to the south. Primarily we're Georgia, Texas, Arizona, California is a big shipping state for us. But then we get a fair amount on the East Coast. Our shipments up the East Coast are much less expensive than the ones out west. And then over the years, we slowly started figuring out, okay, what is the average price to ship a 40-pound box? Now we can adjust prices. The beautiful thing online is you can just change your prices. So we had a rough price. I think the original price for our 10-pound box was $39.95, I believe. And then over the years, UPS has raised their shipping rates. So we slowly started raising our rates to cover the shipping prices. And the 10-pound is $50, but it's shipping included, coast to coast. But it's so awesome. So nothing's ever set in stone online. You can just start adjusting prices. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And/or do you see a disadvantage to not having a website?
I don't know, a disadvantage. It's just another potential revenue stream for us. Before I partnered with Aries at A&M Farms, they had no website, zero online presence. So when I first met Aries and pitched in this rough idea, let's try this, I have this domain name, let's partner up on this. And my pitch was, hey, worst case scenario, I build you a free website and we get to leverage this neat domain. If we can't sell them maybe farm to door or farm to customer, maybe we figure out a way to use this website from a corporate or a wholesale standpoint, just to brand your name, and maybe we can get a big Publix contract or Winn-Dixie or Piggly Wiggly. But the farm to door started working, so we focused on it just for this small aspect. And my little operation is even just a small segment of his primary, which is shipping, the big 53-foot trailers out across the United States. But ours continues to grow, and it helps brand his name and brand our farm to help maybe even have some overflow business into that larger kind of bulk side of the business. But there are lots of different ways to do it within social media, but absolutely, a lot of folks do that. They always try to simply mention their e-commerce website, and then mention a link or link directly to a product page if you have a sale on a 10-pound or an offer, buy one, 2 get 1 free. But you could absolutely do that as well. That will happen. Boxes will get lost. Ours get broken into. You can imagine. If people break into Vidalia boxes, they steal Vidalias out in mid-transit. So over the years, we started including bags within the boxes, which makes it more difficult to steal the Vidalias in the box. That will happen. It's rare for us, thank goodness. We're fortunate for a Vidalia. It's we cure them quite a bit we bring them out of the fields. They cure in the fields for 5 to 7 days. So Mother Nature cures them, and then we bring them in and we cure them within our heating bins. You want to call them? We bring it up. The temperature's around 98, 100 degrees. for a few days. So we're fortunate Vidalias are made. They're quite effective and they ship quite well, even all the way out to Seattle. But they will get dinged in and beat up. And if they do, UPS will not charge us for that box, number one. We have to eat the cost of the onions and the shipping, but I just ship another box. I take care of the customers. I don't even ask. If the thing's lost, I try my best within ShipStation. I can notice the box is either running late. Sometimes UPS will tell me, or the customer will tell me, hey, we ordered a week and a half ago, haven't seen the box yet, or haven't gotten a notification, or haven't gotten an update on the UPS, because we send order confirmation to their email address with a tracking link, so they can track that box every step of the way as it's moving towards them, say in Seattle. If it gets held up in a city, they can always ping us, our customer support, figure out what's going on. If it's been sitting at a city for 3 or 4 days, something's up, UPS hasn't notified us yet, we just ship another box out and just take care of them. And if both happen to land, we just tell them, hey, enjoy the freebies, share them with friends and family. And so we'll either break even or lose money on that with the hope that they come back and order again, and then our head's above water. It's rare, thank goodness it's rare that it happens, but it's cost of doing business. That's going to happen. And and they ship. I'm fortunate. I'm kind of business friends, contacts with the guys that, and I think it's a couple that run the peach truck, and peaches totally different shipping. I was like, gosh, I don't know if I could ship peaches. That would be challenging. Ours, we pack up. We have a big, thick, double-walled cardboard box. Our providers out there in the convention. And then we bag them up, and they ship well. I always ship them to myself just to make sure, or ship them to friends in Colorado and have them take photographs for me. How do they look? Are they damaged, bruised, or anything? They look great every single time they land. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question related to that. So when the customers do experience an issue and you're not catching it through ShipStation, how do they ping you? On your platform, or is that just a direct email kind of?
Usually they can call us. They can reply to the order confirmation, come straight to me, or my friend Noah is going to help with customer support. I have all of our contact information usually across the entire website. Email, we've even now have texting. So it goes through this, our phone number has texting component, so they can now text us and it appears on our computer. So I can type out, rather than doing it on my phone, I can type out a response if somebody's more comfortable with texting. Yeah, that's only came out maybe in the past 2 years. We added that function for our business phone number. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm stepping late. So you say you use ShipStation?
Yeah, that's the shipping management platform that we use. E-commerce is through Shopify. Shopify.
And you feel like those two things link up pretty well?
They link up very well for us. So I even have a third I didn't mention. So I have a content management system for our website called WordPress. So it's just sort of like our homepage website. I update, I do articles, here's what's happening in the farm this week. Areas got mentioned in a magazine, I'll take a photograph of it and include it. And add new functions, like we even tested sending out some of the starters, some of the transplants this year. So I built a new page on WordPress and say, hey, and this one we didn't even do e-commerce. We said, hey, if you want some starters, some transplants, call the packing shed. They'll take care of you. If we have enough demand, okay, next season we may want to consider adding that as a product within Shopify, because it has a very tight window, November to January maybe, and then we shift over getting ready for Vidalia to start.
We'll include a gift message.
Uh-huh.
So they order through your website, you process it through ShipStation. So you print a packing slip with that. Does that print immediately after the label?
It's on the label. Yes, on the label. I chose to do it that way. You can do it all different types of ways. That message is included within Shopify. So there's a message section. They're placing the order. They have an ability, and so I keep it to, I believe, 30 characters, because that's what UPS gives me for this section. So I keep it short. So they got to say, Happy Father's Day, Dad, love you, and that's it. And I stop them. from typing anymore, then that's included. And when I print the label, when I request the label from UPS, prints it out, and then it'll automatically include that message on the label itself at the very bottom. But we've had some rare cases. We have like a big an insurance company that sends out 40 or 50 boxes, and they like having a separate sticker with a big message, and the founder of this company grew up in Vidalia, so he loves sending Vidalias to all of his customers. So I have a separate label that I print through the same printer, through the thermal printer. And I went in and created just a PDF, same size, 4x6. It just says, from my home to yours, I want to share our Vidalias with you. So I print out 50 of those, and it's rare, but so we have the UPS label, sticker, and we have that sticker we put on there. So if you want to get cute, you can always go creative ways to have other messages on your box. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys letting me stand in during this kind of fill-in section. No, this has been we love this, and I'll tell you, every single year we learn a little bit more on how to do, because we're always tinkering or testing with a new type of software or shipping platform or even advertising network. Does this new advertising network, is it worth considering or spending? We've tested billboards on the highways to see if that's a good way to drive traffic, just to educate folks that, hey, if you grew up in the Southeast, or if you just love cooking and love Vidalias, but you just happen to live in Reno, Nevada, hey, you can order Vidalias direct from us, direct from the farm, to get true, authentic Vidalia shipped to your door. But you got to order in season, because if you try to order, you're out of luck. If you try to order in December, you got to wait, which is good. It's that urgency helps us. It hurts us and helps us, but it really does help us more. Because I try to remind our customers, it's time to get your order in. If you're sleeping at the wheel, you're going to have to wait till next season. So it encourages them to quickly get in and place an order or place other ones for friends. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned you start shipping out starter plants.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we just tested it this year.
Would that starter plant throw in, say, Atlanta, it won't have that same quality?
Correct. It won't. It won't. That's correct. It will not. But even some just local farmers, they want to plant our transplant with this, yellow granite seed, and they want to take it. We try our best to educate them. Yes, you can't technically call this a Vidalia, but you're getting a starter direct that is grown in seed beds in Toombs County and is going direct to you. Maybe you have some sandy soil in your back garden, or you have friends that have maybe soil qualities that are similar to South Georgia. That's almost on them. We're just letting them. We get questions about it for years, folks asking, hey, do you sell them? And I kept pinging Aries, do we want to sell these? It's not as big. It's a small growth opportunity, but at the same time, it's kind of a fun growth opportunity. If folks are asking for it and we have them, and it's not too much, if it's not too labor intensive for our packing shed to box and ship a few boxes per week of just the starters, well, then maybe we should consider it, and maybe that customer graduates into a customer for our ready-to-eat Vidalias that we ship in season, which is a neat way to kind of grow. I can't hear. I'm sorry.
What approach are you taking to maximize that SEO?
SEO is one of my old, is part of my old world. I have a lot of exposure to paid search and SEO. What's helped me is, inbound links help. Inbound links are trust and authority from Google's eyes. So if they're crawling the internet, and they see a lot of websites pointing to your website, they automatically assume you have some sort of trust and authority if you're being linked to from maybe your local CVB, maybe your local newspaper, maybe your local newspaper interviews you, and they include a link to your website. It's a high kind of trust signal in Google's eyes, because Google's crawling the internet all the time, trying to understand which websites should we rank for this specific term, for Vidalia onions for our case. So I always try my best to either volunteer my time to anyone who might be interested in hearing our story. If it's a podcast that wants to interview you, jump on a podcast and talk about your farm or project. Heck, anybody listening to the podcast may turn into your customer, and maybe that podcast includes a link back to your website. That's what I would suggest for anyone who's just trying to dip their toe into the whole SEO world, because it's a wonderful way. We rank quite well for the term Vidalia, very fortunate to. But I've been doing it 10 years and trying my best to focus on being quite authentic. And Aries has done a wonderful job. He's a past president of Vidalia Union Committee in Vidalia, and he's often been on a lot of times, like Dal Kennedy is at WSAV. He's friends with Dal Kennedy, so whenever they need to do a live remote, he'll call Aries, and he'll just take their cameras right into the packing shed, and they'll just do a live remote. Oh, it's about Vidalia season. Here's Aries Haygood. How's the crop looks this year? Oh, it looks great. We had a hailstorm. We got through that, thank goodness. And then maybe the story on their website, WSAV, will say, Aries Haygood of VidaliaOnions.com or A&M Farms says the crop's looking good this year. That's a good way to kind of just get started. But the other way, joining CVBs, joining associations, oftentimes they'll include links back to your website that not only help from an SEO perspective, but also help from traffic, because people click those links. They'll go to the Vidalia Union Committee website, and they'll see that we're listed on the Vidalia Committee, and they'll click the link to A&M Farms and visit our website. Yeah. SEO is it's a fun hole. It's very, very deep. But very, very effective. Okay. Yeah, holler anytime if you guys have questions. That's my email address. And we're happy to help, Kelly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.